Hey, Daniel Clayman here, and I've got a case study for you of a rehab and flip deal that I've completed recently. And there's really three purposes behind me putting these case studies out, and I'm going to be putting more case studies out as time goes by and as I do more deals, and also based on your feedback. If this makes sense to a lot of people, I'll keep doing it. But purpose number one is I just like to share what I do. I love this business. I love taking properties and completely changing the way they look, completely changing, uh, their purpose and seeing the impact that it makes on the community and quite frankly on my bottom line. It's nice. It's a fun business, and the more involved the renovation, the more fun the process. Purpose number two is, if you're just starting out in this business, then you may learn something from these case studies. I am by no means a fix and flip guru, and I don't want to misrepresent myself as one. Most of the time, when I rehab properties, I keep them as rentals. Uh, Pretty rarely, actually, but every once in a while, I'll do a flip when the opportunity is right. But if you're fairly new, then you may learn a thing or two just from the way I'm doing things. And purpose number three is to showcase our new Rehab Valuator software that I've just released. I've been using this software myself for over a year to analyze deals. I use it on a daily basis to evaluate deals, and also to, if I ever have a wholesale property, I use that to market my wholesale properties. If I'm sending packages, property packages to my lender, I use that software to generate materials for my lenders. And we've had already a tremendous response when I released the software to my subscriber list. But you know, the third goal behind me doing these case studies is to really show you how simple the software is, but what it can do for your business. So let's move on. This is a single family house that I bought last year. It was a foreclosure. It was listed on MLS. I bought it very cheap. It's in a gentrifying area. It really presented an interesting opportunity. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some before and after pictures because that's a lot of fun. I highly recommend, if you're doing rehabs, take before pictures, take during pictures, and take after pictures. It's always fun to look back on them. And then I'm going to show you how I analyzed this deal going into it. So this is some of the pictures on the left are before, pictures on the right are after. This was a gut renovation. Structurally, the house was very sound. It already had good vinyl siding and a good slate roof, but on the inside we completely gutted it, ripped everything out. It had plaster in the walls, so we took the plaster down. We took most of the lattice on which the plaster was hanging down, as you can see here. Um, Ripped out the old insulation, ripped out the old electrical wiring, took out the old plumbing. There was an oil tank and a gas furnace in the basement. We got rid of both and then put in, brand new electrical wiring, 200 amp service, all new plumbing, two-zone HVAC system, new insulation, sheetrock fixtures, etc., etc., etc. So it was a very involved project. But as you can see here, this is the old kitchen that we took out, and this is a brand new kitchen with granite countertops, new cabinets, stainless appliances, ceramic tile on the floor, living room. This was a downstairs bath that we completely remodeled. This was the only full bathroom upstairs, and we actually gutted it, made it smaller to make room for a second full bath. But as you can see, it's got marble floors, pedestal sink, all new fixtures. Living room, as you can see, it actually already had beautiful hardwood floors, which we refinished. And then this was a wall going between the kitchen and the dining room, which I took out to really open up the downstairs. And as you can see, instead of that wall, now there's an island with a breakfast bar, granite, dishwasher, sink. So it really opened up all of downstairs and really made the layout a lot better. This is the upstairs master bedroom. And this was a hallway closet upstairs, which we expanded. We moved this wall on the right and made a master bath out of it. And as you can see, it's got a double vanity, granite top. And I don't have a picture of it here, but we also tiled a his and hers shower with two shower heads, ceramic tile, just absolutely gorgeous. So now I'm going to walk you through the analysis. And by the way, if you're liking these case studies, you want to see more of them, then leave me a comment at the bottom of this page. I want to hear from you. The more I hear from people and the more feedback I get, the more of these case studies I'll do. So when I ran the numbers on this deal, I ended up negotiating the price down to $44,000. And just for analysis sake, I usually put closing costs around, if I'm doing a cash deal, I'm usually putting closing costs around $1,500 to $2,000. And for holding costs, I went into detailed input, and I kind of know where my renovation policy insurance premiums usually run. Tends to be around $125 a month. Electrical bills, I put in at 100, water sewer bills at 60. And then I put $100 for miscellaneous holding costs, like, landscaping and, while we're renovating, and anything else. So it falls out to about $385 a month in holding costs, and it ends up being a pretty accurate assumption for me. And I actually ended up getting some financing on this deal. I went to a local community bank, and I had some cash. I didn't want to over leverage myself too much. I had some cash to put to work, but I got a loan from them for $66,000. And they lent based on the maximum percentage of after repair values. They would have lent up to 80% of the after repair value. And when they sent out an appraiser, the after repair value came out at $160,000. So they would have lent me a maximum of 80% of that, which would have allowed me to borrow $99,000. But I decided not to borrow the full amount. I had some cash that I needed to put to work at the time. Had some extra cash, so I ended up borrowing $66,000. So in here, I literally just put in equals 66 divided by 160, and it ends up that I borrowed around 41% of the after repair value from the bank. As you can see here, the loan amount is $66,000. And they charged me one origination point, and at the time of the analysis, I assumed about 2% of the loan as closing costs associated with the financing. And I paid that all at closing, and 7.5% interest rate when I made the monthly payments during the rehab. So I selected yes here. And then when I was negotiating the price on this property, I went out there with my contractors for big projects such as this. I have a general contractor that does most of my work, and so I'll usually go out with my general contractor and a couple of subs, the plumbing sub and the HVAC sub, to give me an estimate of repairs for a project. So we went out and I put this rehab budget together, and as you can see, I put a detailed rehab budgets together with permits, demo, dumpster, and you can do this all yourself. It's very simple with our software. And you can see here exterior work, interior work, insulation, electrical rough-in, and I split up between electrical rough-in and electrical final, and same thing for HVAC and plumbing, because in month one I had to give them a deposit, and then I made another payment when it was finalized. And you may have different contractors will require you to pay them differently. Some will require 50% up front, then you'll pay them another 25% when they rough in the trades, and then another 25% when it passes the final inspection. Some will do 50 and 50 at the end. It varies, and it all depends on what you negotiate with your contractors. But with the software, you have the flexibility to input 3 or 4 different payment schedules for each trade. But as you can see here, I had sheetrock, trim, flooring, bathroom fixtures, kitchen. So I spread it out, and I made a detailed rehab budget, and it came out to $55,000, which you can see here. Now, the actual numbers obviously were not this exact, but when I was budgeting, when I was evaluating this deal, I got most of my quotes from my contractors, and there's a couple of things that I was buying myself, so I made estimates for them. So this is the rehab budget that I put together for the whole job, around $55,000. And I estimated it would take 4 months to complete the actual rehab. after repair value was 160, and because we were in a slow market, I assume it would take me about 6 months to sell the property. And I am in month 3 right now, and I'm doing a lot of showings, so I think this thing will sell pretty quickly. And as you can see here, these numbers are pretty self-explanatory. Total capital needed for the whole project was $105,000. Based on what I put in here, maximum that could be financed was $66,000, which is also the actual to be financed. And then after getting a $66,000 loan, this would have been my cash required over the life of the deal. And my total all-in cost at the end of the rehab is here. And the total cost of the project is, let's scroll down through my little presentation, but total cost of the project is purchase price plus the closing costs, holding costs, financing costs, and finally rehab costs. So all of these things together constitute the project cost basis. And going back to my spreadsheet, as you can see, given my analysis when I was going to this deal, I could tell that my cost basis after everything would have been right at 70% of the after repair value. And because I was being conservative, I projected the resale price to be lower than the after repair value. So I only projected I would sell the house at 150 instead of 160. And on top of that, because I knew I was going to put this thing on the MLS myself, I would only have to pay a 3% commission to buyer's agent, and then I assumed another point for various closing costs. So my total cost of sale I projected to be 4% of the sales price. And as you can see here, assuming all of my calculations were correct, this was my projected profit. I would have made annualized basis 82% on my money. And we'll see if that actually turns out to be true when I sell the property. But this was my analysis. And from here, the cool thing that I can generate is I can go view reports and click on cash flow summary flip scenario. And here I've got a month by month cash flow summary over the life of the project. And obviously this information up here needs to be updated. But if you look at the cash flow schedule, so here's my purchase price, closing costs, and origination discount points that I would pay at closing for the loan. My holding costs, $385 monthly. These are my rehab draws based on the rehab budget I put together. Interest payments monthly. Total spent in a particular month. And then here's my cumulative cost basis, and you can see how it evolves over time. And then month 10 is the sale. So sale price of $150, $6,000 in selling costs, pre-tax flip profit, and going back to my presentation, you can see pre-tax flip profit is sales price minus project cost basis minus cost of sale. So you can see that my total cash committed was $46,278. My return on cash investment would have been 82%. So this is a very handy schedule to have for yourself, or if you want to present this deal to somebody else. And the one other thing that I did from here, and you can do this, you don't have to, it's optional, but it helps credibility. So you can go to marketing sheet flip scenario, and this is something that I did when I was putting together a financing package for this house, is I filled out this page and emailed it with my financing package to the banker evaluating my loan. So I've got tutorials on how to do this, but it's very simple. You can click update info, say single fam flip on Chamberlain. You can write the address here, right? So Chamberlain Avenue, can't spell today. All right, 3 bedrooms. It would have been 2.5 baths, about 1,543 square feet. Was built in, I think, 1931. And then here's my personal contact information. And then I can write a brief project description here. Put in any existing pictures I have of the property to show the banker. So click on Insert Pics. And if I went to Pictures, Houses, let's see. Some pictures. So here are my before pictures. Let's make it a smaller view. Okay. Insert some existing pics in here. Alright, and then I just need to go to print reports, marketing sheet, flip scenario. And so what I'm showing the banker essentially is some basic information on the property, but I'm also showing the banker my plan. You know, along with the pictures, I'm showing the banker, look, this is the after repair value, this is what I'm buying it for, this is how much money I'm going to put into it. These are going to be my projected holding closing costs. This is what I plan to pay in financing. This would be my project cost basis, my loan amount that I get from you. This is how much cash I'm going to commit to the deal. And I project I'm going to sell this at 150, etc., etc., etc. And here's my assumed timeline. So this is a great report, not just to use for your wholesale buyers to sell them properties. You can also put this as a part of your financing package if you're rehabbing houses to just have some credibility with the bank and show the bank your plan. And this is a very simple way to do it. So that's that. That shows you kind of how I analyze this deal going into it, and this thing is going to be sold in the next 2 months. I have a feeling, and I'll make a little bit of money on it. So that's it for this case study. Leave me a comment at the bottom. Let me know your thoughts. Leave me a comment at the bottom of this page, and I will talk to you soon.